Beta Chi at Hampton Institute, 1948. After they initiated me and appointed me as a keeper of records, something I hated to do, did not believe in paddling. And they only hit me one time, the whole time I was being initiated, and it took a week and a half to get initiated. But it didn't hurt me. But I never hit a brother in my life. I was appointed during the night of a Province Council meeting. The Grand Polemarch was Hillary Ace Holloway. Like he did something pull something out of the air, because I was there and he had been talking, because I had been a Kappa, I guess about 12, 15 years by then. I got to know him very well, and he and I used to communicate quite well. Even when I was in Louisville and he was in Philadelphia. But we got along real well. And the other thing about him was, he was shorter than me, but he was a grand fellow and a very intelligent young man. He appointed me that night.
Keeping up with him. Going different places and attending meetings and what have you. I met a lot of Kappas and silhouettes. And I look forward to going to meetings with him. Being with my husband and a Kappa and going to Indiana for the first time and participating with the ladies from, different states. That was one that I remember well. A lot of silhouette meetings and meeting different people. Held all the offices there in Memphis.
Okay.
Because we started off very small. And in Memphis, where I live, they had a Kappa house there. And that helped out a lot, because we carried our children with us a lot of times. We could take our children and make it a fun evening, 20 to 25 silhouettes there with their children. So it was very enjoyable. People say he'd be proud of me being here, and he's not around.
Right.
And of course, we have a son that's a Kappa. Oh, I think he'd be proud of me being here, and I'm proud to be here. But I have this little cold feeling, And I know he's turning over now. Babe, that's what he called me. What are you doing being interviewed by Kappas?
Epsilon Row, Western Kentucky University, February 13, 1970. I went to the conclave in Charlotte, North Carolina. And there I had the honor of meeting Brother Byron K. Armstrong. Edward
G. Irvin?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And there I met him at a C. Roger Wilson Leadership Conference there. Man, it was rough. People kept saying, "Wait a minute, he's not going to take my money." They said, yes, he is. But people went to their insurance, finally they signed him. Wait a minute, what is this? How much do we need to take on my life? When we had to make a phone call, we had to pay to be the Province Polemarchs. And I said, I'm going to do everything in my power to do something about financial condition. I inherited $532. We brought in $8,800. Asked Grand Polemarch Ronald Young. He was a great guy. I mean, in fact, I was calling him cool. He used to try to be always cool. And he was.
Right.
I said, I'm going to make this thing work. I'm going to do it. And maybe at first you might have to do it all by yourself first. But you have to give some excitement. As soon as you cross, get busy. I don't care if you're just a strategist. Get busy, do something. And then perhaps your time might come.
I was initiated in Alpha Psi chapter in the Middle Eastern province. It was Bluefield State College on April the 22nd, 1967. It was a historically black school when I was attending there, but now it's considered one of the whitest historically black colleges in the nation. We moved to Knoxville. We sought to get a place to live, and the next thing was I found out where were the Kappas in Knoxville. When I got more involved in the South Central Province, Mark Scott, a lawyer from Chattanooga, was Polemarch. Then when Mark left, Bob Scales became chapter Province Polemarch. And then I served in different capacities with Brother Scales, C. Roger Wilson Planning Committee. I assisted with the helping chapter advisors throughout the province, and that's what kind of initiated my even more interest in getting involved in the fraternity on different levels. So the intriguing part was trying to get those individuals re-energized to get back involved in the fraternity. You know, and we had an opportunity during those early years, you know, to visit places like Murray State, visited Tennessee, University of Tennessee at Martin. Now I went to Lane College in Jackson, Mississippi, because I went to Ole Miss, and I was kind of intrigued to go there anyway because of the historical significance of being in Ole Miss. He said, I want to find out if you'd be interested in serving as the Province Polemarch for the South Central Province, you know. So I had to look around. I said, "Now, who is this really?" You know, right. we talked some more, and as he explained to it, he said he's trying to assemble some brothers that are open to trying to take the fraternity in a different direction. Brother Willis and myself are the longest serving Polemarchs. I think Brother Willis may have me by a couple of months.
Okay.
I was initiated as scroller in the Alpha Alpha Psi chapter at Kentucky State University in '76. Due to family issues, financials, thing and the other, I wasn't able to complete while I was there. And then trying to graduate and not have my grades suffer, I decided to wait until I was out of school. And then I was initiated officially in the Louisville Alumni Chapter in '86. Okay. The very first Province Council meeting I went to was in Paducah. I wound up being on the nominating committee, which was not my intent. It was just that we weren't doing this right. And then over the next, I believe it was maybe 3-4 years, I ultimately became nominating committee chairman. And from there, board of directors, and from there, I became our 20th Province Polemarchs senior vice Polemarch, and then ultimately Province Polemarch. I think the fun thing for me was just the transition of going from, that every day I just want to party kind of brother to one that actually became serious about the business of Kappa Alpha Psi and understanding that it was more than just how we party. Our province tended to be very disjointed, in my opinion. And I don't mean that in any kind of a negative way. Could I get our province to think as one? This young new initiate approached me and said, hey, I want to help. Is there anything that I could do to help you, connect with our undergraduates? And he said, let me do this. And I was like, you know what, this is going to be impossible. Nobody's been able to do it. I know some have tried. He said, just let me try. And I said, okay, have at it. See what you could do. At the end of that council meeting, every single thing that we as a board wanted to move forward, everything was on one accord. And I could not believe that this person was able to do that. Ironically, that person is our current Province Polemarch, Brother Leonard Clemens. So seeing that in him very early, that he was just willing to work, and he did something that no one had been able to do before. The thing I'm most proudest of in our fraternity or in our province, obviously, is the St. Jude partnership that we had that started up under my administration. What a lot of people do not know across the country, you hear them say 2005 was when that started. That actually started in 2003. We started that on my first province council meeting in Memphis, Tennessee. The brothers in Memphis were so gracious to plan a tour of the hospital for me. I had never been to St. Jude before. I just knew it was there. And as we were walking around, I was seeing all these names on the wall, all these plaques, all these other things. And what I noticed was I didn't see any from African American organizations at all. Okay? So I asked the question to them, what does it take for us to get our name on this wall? Because I wanted to do something where it seemed like, you know, an organization that was helping African American children, that there was an African American organization that was trying to help. And they said, okay, well, you know, it's like a $250,000 contribution level. And I was like, okay, well, that's never going to happen in our province. So I made I agreed to a very small limited partnership that we would raise, I believe our initial thing was like $2,000 from the province to give to St. Jude, which was, you know, pennies to them, but it was more symbolic than anything else. So over the next 2 years, I lobbied my peers on the Council of Province Polemarchs, as well as our Grand Polemarch, that, hey, we've got this program that we've got going now. This needs to become a national thing. Our mandate was to raise $500,000 in 5 years. We actually raised like $1.4 million in 4 years. When I heard all of the living Grand Polemarchs come up to me and say, this is absolutely the best program we have ever done as an organization, I can't tell you how proud that made me feel, because it was the right thing to do. When I heard other organizations saying, if you're not doing like the Kappas are doing with this St. Jude program, then you're not doing anything.
Initiated the Beta Mu chapter April 2nd, 1977. Coming up this year will be 42 years and another week.
All right, Beta Mu, that's Lemoyne-Owen, correct?
Lemoyne-Owen College. However, at the time, Beta Mu was the city charter for Memphis. I didn't go to Beta Mu. I went through State Tech and then went over to University of Memphis, serving as Polemarch for Beta Mu, and then became a charter member of Kappa Beta chapter, which is on the campus of Memphis State University, now University of Memphis. So I've served both as Polemarch of Beta Mu chapter, undergrad, Polemarch of Kappa Beta chapter as well. The Lewis Willis, Province Polemarch with Lewis Willis.
Right.
He was Province Polemarch at that time. Robert Gill was chapter advisor to the undergrad chapters. And I became active in the Memphis Alumni chapter, serving as chairman in various roles in the alumni chapter. And then I came to the province, and that's when I was embraced by Brother Siegel, Brother John Russell, came in contact with Brother Scales. These are guys that kind of laid the trademark for me to get engaged. Brother Russell had a very direct impact on me, because I reached out to him and he began putting me on committees on the provincial level. So I served on the Budget and Finance, I served on the Audit Committee, and it provided an open door for me, because I wanted to make sure that coming from Memphis Alumni Chapter, and at the time I was Polemarch of Memphis Alumni Chapter, the St. Jude Project, Sunday of Hope, back as a senior province Polemarch. I was appointed the national chairman through Brother Hamilton, Samuel Hamilton. The program is still engaged, where we have raised, the fraternity through other churches have raised over in excess of $2.4 million. So that's a flagship for me. In my local chapter, getting National Chapter of the Year at the Grand Chapter level.
It's initiated in Epsilon Row chapter at Western Kentucky University in 1969, and that puts me on the founding line. Going to provincial meetings, as an undergrad, we were told immediately that that you go to provincial meetings and then you go to the first conclave that you can afford to go to. And seems like my first provincial meeting was in Chattanooga. I have missed 2 provincial meetings in the last 50 years. Was the night before I was initiated, and we had gone through all the chaos that goes the night before initiation back then. We're told to go back to our resident hall rooms and lock the door and don't come out till morning. There was a knock at my door, and I looked under the crack in the door and I realized was adult male shoes, cap toes, that there stood H.H. Holloway. Epsilon Rho was the first undergraduate chapter at a predominantly white institution in the Southeast. We were put under the care and to be trained by Alpha Theta. Get involved in Kappa at all levels and take Kappa into your community.
I was initiated in the Alpha Lambda chapter in December the 10th, 1954. College then at South Carolina State University now. I was Polemarch and I was a football player, and I was also president of my senior class, and so I was on the student council and all of that. So when I came in to a graduate chapter, my first experience was at Memphis Alumni, and I just looked, and that's the year that I first taught in Memphis, but I didn't really go back that much. When I came to Nashville, one of the teachers at my school where I was, her husband, Brother Gupton, who was Coach Gupton then, he was Polemarch of Nashville Alumni. Greek-led organizations had formal dances in Nashville. You have problems, and you can't be broke to be Polemarch of now, I don't know about other chapters, but you can't be broke and be Polemarch of Nashville Alumni. If you too poor, this is no place for you. I mean, you know, that's just the way it is. So he said something to me about, said, well, have you ever thought about seeking a province office? And when I finished up, I saw province office. Brother Russell was a strong leader. And of course, later on, Brother Seeger got on he was on the same board. And so there were some things that were done that I thought were very good. One, Brother Seeger talked about the financial sovereignty of the Polemarch. I also found out what a job that Brother Russell had done as far as the finance was concerned. Alumni chapter, man of the year. I've been in local chapter, I've been man of the year. I'm also H.H. Walker, when our chapter, man of the year award. I've been Polemarch's man of the year. And I would have the same advice that I would give any man, any woman. Be true to yourself. Be true to your God. Take care of home. Place the fraternity or sorority that you belong to in the place where it should be. I mean by that, if you place it in the place where it should be. First, if your parents have raised you what you call correctly, obey them. Obey them. Not always going to agree with them, but obey them. Next, if you're a man, take care of home. Your first priority is home. You may do other things, but take care of home. Your social life, place it in its proper perspective and learn everything you can about it. Learn your Constitution. What does it call for? If you don't want to go into it, Nobody put a pistol to your head and said, this is what you must do. But one of the things that you need to do is to learn everything you can about your fraternity and where you expect to go in the fraternity. And you have to learn to contribute to your fraternity. Just don't go into it thinking that the fraternity is going to give you everything. You have to be willing to give something to the fraternity.